Well, thought we'd take y'all on another ride, maybe, going for a ride part 2. We've had some really pretty weather for the last couple of days, although it's been pretty dry. We're, according to the weatherman, the worst drought in decades. We're 24 full inches behind in rainfall this year. So it's going to be dusty, but it's going to be fun. Anyway, it's going to be me and Jackson the Wonder Horse. And let's get mounted up and go. Before we begin, I need to apologize for Jackson's rather unkempt bridle path. We pulled the meter at the barn, so we haven't had any electricity, and my cordless ones just don't hold a charge anymore. I keep saying I'm going to buy a new set, never have, and just haven't gotten around to cutting it with a pair of scissors. Hell, these days, as little as I get to ride, it seems rather low priority. We've had a lot of high winds, and just blown this tree completely down the middle of our road. So this is going to be interesting, so y'all hang tight. Now, how is that for a horse? I think I may have mentioned before that they were sustainable tree growers, and they plant in small lots like this. And as you can see, they've just had a controlled burn to get rid of some of the underbrush. You can tell it's a glorious, beautiful day. Just kind of windy. And so, if I have to turn this off every few minutes to sneeze, it's got my allergies in a roar. I will not deny it. These are some of the trails we don't normally take because they host, well, they're canned hunts. I don't really know any other way to put it. It's not really something that I enjoy or approve of, so I don't really have any part of it. But they pen raise pheasants. And people pay big money to come out here and shoot semi-wild pheasants that they throw off an 80-foot tower. And so the tower is right here in the middle of it. We're going to ride by it in a second. And the reason we don't ride down here is because these hunters, and I use that term very loosely, these shooters come down here and don't really police themselves well. So there's always spent shotgun shells and beer bottles and beer cans laying everywhere. And, there's only so many hours in the day that Dean, Melissa, myself, Katie can get down here and clean it up. So there's a lot of trash and potential for broken glass. So we just kind of stay out of this area, which is a shame because, as you can see, it's a really pretty trail to ride. But, I'm not going to fault anybody for making money in these days. And they've been doing it for years, and they're well known for it. It's just not my thing. See, this is what I was talking about right here. So, tomorrow I know what I'll be doing. Anyway, just continuing to ride the trail, show you some more. Looks kind of like the forest from a fairy tale. It's very dark and shady and cool. The tower I was telling you about. What they do is they bring half a dozen or so of these bird crates, which is exactly what they are. They were designed to transport live birds. And they run them up that tower right there and throw them off. Now, these birds are semi-tame, semi-wild, depending on the point of view, and they can fly some. So, it's not like they're throwing them off to a certain death. Just about 99% certain. But it never fails. They miss a few. Sometimes they miss a few dozen. And ain't nothing like riding a nice green 2-year-old and having a semi-tame pheasant flush right from under your feet. Another view of the tower. And they make this god-awful squawk when they flush. And I have had a couple of horses come completely unloose underneath me. More trail scenage. Nothing special about it. More trail scenes. Alright, we're heading back into the woods again. As I mentioned earlier, we're in the midst of the worst drought we've had in probably my entire adult lifetime, 20 plus years. I mean, you can look at it and see that, you know, maybe compared to some places it's pretty green. And it is to a degree, but it's dry. It's bad dry. It's a powder keg. Like this area we're fixing to come up on to right now, this is usually always underwater. This is flooded timber back here. There's probably a whole acre of this place right here that stays underwater, and you can see it's just a couple of puddles. And where that grass is growing right there in the middle of them puddles, that's usually underwater. And here's a puddle here. This is usually about 3 foot deep. Well, 2 foot deep anyway. Deep enough for my dog to swim in. And, you know, we usually hunt ducks back here in the winter. Southern ducks love flooded timber. And our timber ain't flooded. Most of our trails, as you can see, this looks more like a road. Most of our trails start as deer paths. And then cows widen them and the horses widen them. And some we widen for, you know, truck and trailer for obvious reasons. And some, like this one, we've widened. We have a friend. Actually, she's more than Dee Melissa's friend, but I know her quite well, I guess. Who has 2 or 3 teams of Belgians and Belgian crosses and a couple of wagons. And her family has been into draft horses, specifically Belgians, for a long time. But before that, they used to do chuck wagon races. So they're drivers and they know it. And we used to have little trail rides like Jackson and I are taking y'all on right now out here. And she would always pout because she couldn't come along because she didn't have a saddle horse. She just had a team. So we took some of these trails and made them good and wide enough for her small wagon and a couple of her Belgians. And so, you know, that's why this one looks like a road. It looks like the one we went to, looks like a road. Basically, we made a big racetrack around the property so she could make a big loop. She can't make most of these little trails that I've taken y'all on, obviously. But she can come along sometimes when she wants to. Makes her happy. Give y'all a quick idea how dry it is. This is the hay pasture. If you'll go back and look in the old video, it was all that dark green rolling grass, and this is it now. Brown, stunted, bare spots. You know, we should be right about our first cutting right now, and that grass ain't even a foot high. What grass there is, and so it's gonna be rough. Come and find hay next fall. Nothing really spectacular about this shot. I just thought it made a kind of a pretty picture. These are all training horses right here. Well, thank you for coming along with the ride as usual. I enjoyed any excuse to talk to myself. So for me and Jackson, we're going to say goodnight.